Oh, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on when you are joining me. This is everything homeschooling, everything unschooling, everything home educating. And I'm doing a classic review today. So stay with me and listen to all the fun, especially if you are just starting out or just curious about homeschooling. So stay with me. Hello and welcome back. I am so excited to reach out to people who are just starting home educating or their homeschooling journey right now. It's the beginning of September, middle of September, and you may or may not have had your kids in school, and that may or may not be working out for you, but you're still looking for options. So this is the place to find the answers. Um, all right, so I'm going to start with the basics. So everybody's first question is, can I really do this? Is this really something, I'm not a teacher. How can I do this? Well, first of all, let me correct that thought process. You are your child's best and most capable educator, teacher, guide, companion. How has your child learned to talk, to walk, to roll over, to eat with a knife and fork, to do all the things that we don't consciously teach? Learning happens. School is optional. If you have a really intense interest in something and you want to learn more about it, you go there, you get the curriculum, you do the stuff, and you get the knowledge that you want. And that's great. But what about natural learning? Your child is a natural learner. Scientific, you see the effort that they put into rolling over for the first time, for reaching for that bottle of milk, for trying to stand up. And what are you doing when they're taking their first steps? You're standing there with your arms wide open and a big smile on your face saying, "Come on, you can do it." Your child is receiving acceptance, approval, support, and encouragement. And they're the ones that are trying to stand up. So, whatever your children are interested in, you are capable. There are fancy words and technical terminology, and I'm sure you've all heard the term pedagogy. That means something different than what we're talking about today. Because pedagogy is when somebody is being taught something. The next free stage from that, or the step apart from that, is andragogy. And that is where most parents, most homeschoolers fit. It's self-directed. The child asks you a question. What is that? And the parent says, I don't know, let's go find out. Or, how do I do this? And the parent says, I don't know, let's go find out. And the two of you or more learn together. They learn how to learn, which is way more important than stuff, just stuff. Anybody can learn stuff, but then if something changes, how do you adapt? We've just all experienced that with COVID. So, what I want to start with is your why. What is it that is causing you to think about home education? So we're going to go through some of the reasons why people homeschool. And you can't use the excuse of I'm not a teacher anymore, because you are. You are your parents' first, and you are your child's first and best teacher. So many people right now, especially today and this last year, are taking the leap into home education because of COVID. Perhaps because their children don't want to be masked, they don't want to be vaccinated. Maybe they are vaccinated and they are uh, using masks, but they don't to take the chance of being in close proximity with other kids that may not be. We've seen just yesterday the 15 classes that have closed here in the Niagara District area for schools, and and so many other school areas closing classes, schools. Um, it's a concern. So that's one reason. Um, Historically, though, home education is the very first. Home education is the traditional education. People from the dawn of time taught their own children how to go hunt animals, how to clean them, how to cook them. Everything was done by example. And and today is no different. We might not be hunting as much, but some people still do. So that's not a problem. So the other reasons that people choose to home educate is maybe because of a religious belief or a faith that they want to preserve, a tradition, a culture. So being able to preserve a language in the family or anything that matters. If that's your why, brilliant. It's adding so much to our communities. Um, so parents' choice is super important, and these whys are elementary. I mean, you can go online and look up Simon Sinek's the why um, video, and that's super to refresh yourself from time to time. Some parents are disgruntled with the situation at schools. Perhaps their children were bullied, or they're not getting the type of education that they want them to get, or that their children might be too advanced or have some special needs that they're not being accommodated at the school. Um, so the quality of time is another reason that parents might home educate, because they want that to build the relationship with their children and improve um, the future and conversations that you have with your children. Another reason is that people perceive it as being a safe alternative. Um, Not going to go into news reports of the few and far between issues that have happened, but there is probably not going to be any school shootings. Um, if you're home educating, it's a much safer environment because the vast majority of people who homeschool are not homeschooling to um, to restrict their children from, but to enhance it. And those parents, you who are choosing to home educate, are taking responsibility for your children's education. And that's beautiful. Another benefit and a reason why people might want to homeschool is for age mixing. Age mixing means that your children are not over socialized to their own peer group and under socialized to the rest of the world. So think about a ball game where kids bring their bats and balls and mitts to a park and they just hope that somebody else is showing up where they can play a game. And seeing how the older kids help the younger kids learn how to play the game, learn what the rules are, learn how to hold the mitt properly, how to hold the bat properly. Recently, I was at a park with my grandchildren, and there were numerous kids of all different ages on this one play boat, and they all were very concerned and appreciating the comfort level of all the other kids. So the young ones, if they were a little scared of going on this thing that was moving, they would tell the older ones would say, "Hey, wait up. This guy's a little afraid. Let's help him understand that it's safe." So they stopped it rocking so that he could get on it. So when kids learn from other kids, they can learn how to read from other kids. They can learn so many things from being with different aged environment, different age kids. And it's a social thing too. There's a lot of issues with kids not being able to keep eye contact. And yet, when they're interacting with other kids of different ages, that doesn't seem to be an issue as much. Also, there's the self-confidence and the self-esteem that it gives the kids who are teaching other kids. Wow, I can teach somebody else what I know, and that makes them feel good about themselves. I had students from other countries who come to learn English, and they stay with families with kids, and the young English kids of the families teaching the teenagers how to speak and words and sentences and what things mean. You can see a 6 or 7 year old light up because they just taught a 17 or 16-year-old a new thing and they feel really good about themselves. So those types of age mixing and cultural mixing opportunities are great that they wouldn't always get, that rarely if ever get, in a school system where they're age segregated by date of manufacture, so to speak. Okay, so I wanted to um, approach a couple of questions that people have had. A lot of people will go online and ask, I have a 4-year-old, I have a grade 6, what curriculum should I use? Every child is different. And outside of the school system, that is one curriculum. When you get into the world, everything else is available. So, getting to know your child, playing with them, taking the time to see what kind of things they're interested in, and not being afraid of them being behind, because there is no behind and there's no gaps when you're not comparing them to other kids their own age that are in a totally different system. So, for instance, I never used grade levels because we used competency based things, strength based approach. So, look at the child, see what they're interested in. How are they playing with the Lego? How are they playing with the video games? What is it about the video game or what they're doing that keeps their attention? Those are all things that we can use to build our relationship with our children. Teachers observe and um, have interactions with their students, and they see how they're doing. That's exactly what we as parents need to do. Not just take a curriculum and sit it in front of our kids and expect that they will do it. So there is no one right way to homeschool. There is no one right curriculum for a kindergartner or a grade 6. To truly regain their natural love of learning who they are, what they like, and how they learn is crucial. Um, I like to look at the way I brought up my kids after 30 years of home educating and grandchildren now as a buffet. So I knew I wanted to be with my children. And so I created my own option of what I wanted them to see and learn and experience. So, first, I was like everybody else. I thought, do I send my kids to school? I went and I asked every school 4 questions. The first one was, what's your philosophy of education? Second one is, what's your methodology of education? And then, who designed your curriculum and why? And the last question I asked was, how can you assure me that my daughter will be able to work at her optimum level and not be pushed ahead or be held behind? And that was the most eye-opening opportunity that I had, because I went and asked the public schools, the Catholic schools, the Waldorf, and the Montessori. And for the most part, people looked at me like two heads. Why are you asking these questions? Who do you think you are to ask us these things? And it gave me the true understanding of the questions that I had asked. While Montessori and Waldorf could tell me the origin of their curriculums and the origins of their methods, the public school people were, I don't know what we're teaching, or it's all up in the air. We don't even know if we're going to have a teacher for that class now. I know somebody who's had 3 different teachers, been told to her for her daughter's class. Um, and so those 4 questions really helped me secure what I wanted to do with my daughter. So we started doing horseback riding once a week. And she was little, like 6 months old. Um, and I had a home daycare at the time so that she could have other kids to play with. And we got a music teacher in once a week who did great games and musical activities with the kids. And we went to the library 3 times a week. We found other homeschoolers, mostly at the library. When you see other people with their kids out during a school day, they're generally homeschooling, so it was easy to spot. And now during COVID, so many people are on different Facebook groups. There's even Facebook groups for the different grade levels. So if you are following a grade level method, then you can go on Facebook and find a group just for kids that are in grade 4, just for kids that are in grade 6, so you can put in that information and find those people. In general, there are a lot of questions about curricula, and that would be my first um, suggestion is there are a few mistakes that new homeschoolers make. And the first one is to jump in and buy curriculum. First, you should get to know your kids and be sure of your why you're wanting to home educate. Are you wanting a more natural experience, like a forest school or nature activities? Is it because you want to learn a different language or you want your child to have a different language? There are so many of everything is available online. So it's a real cornucopia of things that you can choose. And that can make it very overwhelming. You can feel very overwhelmed and think, if I just buy this curriculum and sit it down with my child, then I won't have a problem. And in my experience with myself, lots of other families, kids would do the first little bit of it and then lose interest because recreating school at home, that's not what it was meant for. Um, so really that first step should be choosing your why, not doubting yourself, not feeling like you can't do this. There are so many of us out there helping, ready to help. Go if you're in Ontario, reach out to the Ontario Federation of Teaching Parents, and you can find them at ontariohomeschool.org. And there you will find an abundance of information and an abundance of people that are willing to help you. Um, so that's basically what I wanted to talk about today, the basics. Um, and if anybody had any questions. So I'm going to open up the the visitors and comments lounge. And if you'd like to come to the show and ask me some questions, I'd be delighted to have you. Let me see. All righty. So I'm going to put the link in the comments on Facebook. Let's see. Did it work? There it is. All right. The link is in there now. I'm just going to separate the link from everything else. Copied. All right. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments. I'm happy to answer them, regardless of whether it's live or the repeat. Um, yes, so that information is up there now. And we are live I am live here every Friday afternoon at 3 to answer any questions you might have or help direct you to the answers that may be helpful. This has been basically a speedy review of our first video that was done last year. At this time, I would I seemed to talk too slow, so I put it on double time and watched it, and so it was really much better. I like being able to change the speed. But that being said, if nobody has any questions right now, I want to thank you for being with me here, and don't hesitate to reach out at any time. Take care, everybody, and have a great weekend.